All right, welcome back everyone to Om in the Home Revolution. I'm Tanya Milano Snell, the host of the program, and I'm here with Nicolette, who will tell to us about her family and kind of her endeavor in the world here. So thank you so much for talking with me.
Oh, thank
Go
you
ahead
so
and take it
much for
away.
having me. Hi, everyone. So a little bit about me. My name is Nicolette Sowder. I'm the creator of Child, Wildschooling, and the Kids Moon Club. Um, yeah.
Huge
And
fan.
oh, well, thank you so much. It's been a slow grow, and it's been unexpected and born out of mystery, which I think most beautiful things are. Like it was ahead of me, and I think that's good because it's kept me humble, and it's kept me just dwelling in that place between the dark and the light, talking about that. We're like right now, as we record this, we just had solstice. So I feel like I've lived seasonally and in that rhythm, and then out of that has been born a lot of the things that are out there in the world right now. So that's yeah, it's been quite the journey.
Yeah, those of you that don't know her work yet, Wildschooling, when I had my kids really, when they were really young, I found you. I don't even know how I found it. But Wildschooling Facebook group has really been helpful for sharing outdoor pursuits and just a community that is really helpful in how do we raise wildlings, right? Like just feeling like there's other people out there.
Kept feeling like there's another way to be, and
Mhm.
one that we're not reinventing all the way, because I think, like we were talking about before we hit record, conscious parenting is it's a huge shift in the psyche, that's been going on and in the zeitgeist, and there is a lot of indigenous knowledge that where we can grab from that and honor that in terms of conscious parenting. And the same is for nature connection, continuum parenting. That's not the right title of the book, but the continuum. I'll think of it. It's my favorite parenting book. It changed my life.
I'm gonna have to
Um,
look at that one. I don't know
yes,
that
I'll actually find it before the end of this. But
one.
as much as we can draw on ancestral connection, I think we're also having to make something new. And
Mhm.
so it's difficult. It's definitely difficult to do, but we can look, I think, first rooting ourselves in nature and in the indigenous community where there are aspects of the feeling that we're trying to get closer to.
Yeah.
We're not starting from scratch, even though I think sometimes it feels like that, because it just feels so different. And not in
Yeah.
everyone's case, I know everybody is different who's listening to this, but it is so, in my case, there are so many aspects that are different from the way that I was raised.
Yeah, a big part of Om in the Home Revolution is connection to nature and just how do we do that. And for me, it was easy because I loved it as a kid. I enjoyed being outdoors. I studied biology in undergrad.
Mhm.
I did nature play based graduate school. So but not for
Mm.
all parents, it doesn't come naturally. So there's a whole section of my program where we can kind of guide you through some of that. And Nicolette's going to be a great resource for that if you're interested in working deeper with her material. Before we talk about your stuff some more, can you tell us more about your family though? Like who's
Sure.
in it? What kind of day?
So we're kind of in an interesting setup. I used to live in Northwest Indiana, and that's where my mom is one of 15, which is like wild to me. um, and it scares people when I tell them that. It scares me. Okay. So I grew up in a huge family of 62 first cousins, and most of them live in this Northwest Indiana, Chicago region, with
Mhm.
just like a couple little exceptions. And so I grew up in this giant extended family, which got me prepared for so many things. And like everybody I meet, I'm like, oh, that just reminds me of Aunt so and so, or Uncle, so and so. And everybody's like a cousin, and it makes my ability to go to anywhere and talk to anyone really easy. But also, it was quite overwhelming to try to find who I was within the context of
Mhm.
of the family. And so ultimately, my husband and I, um, we moved back from Denver because I moved there. I'm gonna just keep my story short, but like I moved to Denver to be with him, and his mother was actually passing away at the time. So we were there to help with that and just be there in that space. And then after that, we moved back to Northwest Indiana to try to start a farm on my mom and dad's 3 acres. And we got we're really into permaculture, which is really just taking it, so much of its information and ways of being comes from indigenous ways of gardening, and just being with the land, like
Mhm.
working with the land. It's beyond gardening, it's so much deeper than that. But
Mhm.
so we were doing that, and it quickly became obvious that this 3 acres was just not enough. And I think it was also, there was some relational work that had to happen with my mom and dad before, it's always about getting that thing manifest. Like, you have a dream,
Mhm.
and then I think the emotional piece of it always gets pushed back. And then as you're developing your physical manifestation, at least in my case, those emotional things really, and those wounds really came up. So
Mhm.
the first step was us realizing the land was too small. And I think this energetic generational space that we were in within my larger family was too small. So we came to Michigan, and we were absolutely, it was incredible the way we were able to get our land. There was just some serendipitous things that happened. So it's 60 acres that we're on right now, and we began a whole other part of our life that just has opened us up in so many ways. And then
Mhm.
my sister moved up with my brother-in-law and her 2 children, and then my mother and father are on the same property. They're across the
Wow.
driveway, and then my brother is going to move up too. So being on this land has been the single most transformative thing that has ever happened to me. And I do not think that everybody has to be on massive amounts of land to be able to do that. I think it was my own personal story and the way that I had within my larger family that precipitated this move that is connected to so many other dynamics and things for me. But
Mhm.
I believe that now, just being where I'm at and being so deeply connected in the way I am to nature in a different way, I realize now I could have done it even when I was living in the heart of Chicago. So I just don't want people to think, that's kind of the dream that's sold to us, as this massive
Yeah.
thing. But it had to do with emotional and interpersonal thing. It was deeper thing. Everybody's story is different, and everybody's journey is different. So now we're here with my family, and we're um homesteading, we have our business, we're doing all kinds of things. And it has not been easy, I will say that. Again, I think
Yeah.
we're sold this Instagram dream, this Pinterest dream of starting a farm, living off the land, being self-sufficient. And not all of that was secondary to us really healing our emotional wounds.
Mhm.
um, and seeing the bigger picture of why this is all playing out the way that it is, and healing some of the things that I came in with in relation to how I interact with mother nature, which was really quite consumptive,
Mhm.
um, and disconnected. And so as I've reflected the external biome into my own internal emotional landscape, things have really begun to shift.
Yeah, that is like a beautiful story. And there's so much imagery that you when you speak, I just, yeah, it's just beautiful. We talked a little bit before hitting record about elders and having a community and just having that tribe feeling. And I got that kind of chills when you talked about the family coming back to be on this property. And like you said, not everybody has that in their life. And it's really in the Home Revolution's about what can you create in your family, what feels good in your space and your timing. And it hasn't been easy for my family and I either. It's a evolution
Yes.
of your family. And when you bring new beings, human beings into it, that are developing and finding themselves, you kind of have to shift with their energy as well.
Oh yeah. And I think a lot of the times when we seek something in our external environment, a lot of times, and then let's say it's an unfulfilled need. Let's say we won't be able to have that if our grandparents have passed away, or we can't afford to have um, something that we know is missing. I think sometimes that ends up being something that's missing within us. So if we attend to those, like the elder aspects of ourselves, and that like our sense of we're grasping out for wisdom, and then it's really something where we really are seeking our own wisdom, and we're reaching for someone who's going to tell us the path and show us the path and model it for us, and really we've lost our internal compass. I think that's where, if we look there, and I've done, like, that's what's happened to me, like trying to look there, then it does manifest in our world, because it's like we're tuned to that. We become like a radio receiver, and then elders do appear in our lives, and it's like we're attracting that which we are now, or we're working towards. And so, because I know it's not possible, I think the elder piece and the village piece can look like many things. I mean, trees are elders. So, but we don't recognize that until we recognize that aspect in ourselves, because we hold the multitudes as we do reflect the multitudes. We are made of the stuffs that we are trying to become, and I think it's important to feel that we are in an abundance as opposed to a lack. And that lack comes from, in my case, wounds, and being taught that I need to be a consumer, because what I need is not in here, it's out there.
Yeah,
I have to pay for that. I have to pay
such
for
a conditioned response in our culture.
Yeah, it's just, we're definitely come out like being sold to, for sure.
Yeah, it's been a huge learning process, and the rhythm of nature, like you said, has been a really big part of defining or finding my inner compass. So, the moon, the rhythm of the moon has been really important to my journey. And I wanted to, before we wrap up here, I just wanted to talk about one offering that you have that I've been through with my kids, and it's really, really special. I love it so much. If you want to talk about the Moon Club before we wrap up.
Sure.
And then in the Home Revolution, we'll have your materials for people to find you and work deeper with you. I'll mute myself and then.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. So I'll tell you a little bit about the Kids Moon Club. It is a year-long journey of story and reconnection, realignment with not only the moon, but with the solar cycle. And it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to rebuild those ancestral and astronomical anchor points into your seasonal year. Hi.
The book she has, fun books.
And, ultimately, it goes back to you not relying on me, but my hope is to help every family build their own culture and connect to their own biome. in their own unique way. And it's all about rebuilding those relationships, both externally and internally, and celebrating, having a place within um, your entire seasonal year that helps you sync with your breath, the in breath, the out breath, and then the in breath and the out breath. The new moon is like the in breath, the full moon is the out breath with the phases. And you have those ways of stopping. I'm sorry. I have a cold.
Yeah, I can hear it.
You have ways to that are built in for you to be able to pause and be able to shine. So it's like your body starts to sync to that and your family rhythm. I made it through.
Yeah, you need a drink. Yeah, it's been really important to me. And before we got on the call, we were also talking about the prescriptive nature of some of these nature curriculums, and that you have to follow this, that, and the other. And your program has, that has a lot of materials that you can use, right? If it works for your family, if it doesn't, you pick and choose like the things that really feel good as a family to come together and do. And for me, it's really important, but for one or two of my children, maybe they're not interested in parts of it. So I think that it's really, really it's really all encompassing of the different learning modalities you have in there, music, art, just the different types of things that we might enjoy doing together. So.
I tried to really make it contextual, so you won't see crafts in there that are just for craft's sake. Everything is connected to the full moon forest story, which is a thread that winds through the entire year. So the objects that the creatures in each, there's 12 creatures, one for each different moon cycle, and then they present an object that gives the children, Luna and Orion are guiding your families through the full moon forest, and the object that they present is the craft that you make. And the object is supposed to imbue them with some emotional element that helps in their life. So I tried to make it all connected, and so it doesn't, and because I think that's a huge issue with how our education system is, it's not contextual. So okay, now it's frog, now we're going to talk about frogs. Why? And this is, I was telling you this, my question to everything that I'm asked to do, or I'm asking my children to do, is why. My whys got shut down, and I don't want that for my children. Like, why am I think children's time is sacred, as is ours. And so if I'm asking you to do something, it needs to have purpose, and I need to really check myself. So if I'm asking you to talk about frogs, that means that there was some miraculous occurrence of frogs in our environment. Either the spring peepers are coming, or we saw a beautiful frog we'd never seen before. We had a special encounter, or I see a spark within you. That, that's where the attunement is, the relationship. I see that spark that I feel like, as an older person, that we should follow.
So it really comes down to the observation skills. That's really what, my strength is, observing behaviors in children, and I have my biology background. So yeah, when you really observe, it's hard in a huge classroom of kids. I was a teacher. So when you're really observing their sparks and trying to follow that's where the learning happens. That's where the integration happens. And it's funny you brought up the frog, because we went on our winter solstice hike yesterday, and we saw a frog, which was very weird. We were talking about, why would a frog be out? Like, it wasn't alive. But yeah, it just, those are the conversations, those natural conversations that come up. Well, why would the frog be out in December? And,
Right.
so,
And if you can't, like, if there's too many kids and you can't follow their individual sparks, that's why the seasons are wonderful, and following things seasonally and phase wise, because there's always going to be something that comes up that's very contextual when you do that. So like if you're
I'm gonna say
just overwhelmed and it's impossible to like go deeper on any individual interest, just look at what's emerging in your environment and your needs as a family. We talk about child-led so much, but for us it's village-led.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not always about one person and their needs and what they're, oh my gosh, we do that so much, especially I don't want to say as mothers, because I think it's, there's all kinds of different caretakers I know who are watching, but we tend to over engineer and overdo our children's environments. And we really are like, oh my gosh, they're interested in this and I need to get this, I need to get all the resources and I need to hyper focus on this and I need to just, but really and I did that with my first a lot.
Yeah.
But what I realized is that, in an Indigenous way, it's village focused and village led. And it's about the needs of like, how is not just like one person going to thrive, but how is the entire community going to thrive? And what is my special gift and purpose within that wider expression? And showing very individualized in a very individualized society that's very disconnected to any kind of sense of cyclical biome. The best thing that we can do to get kids back in touch with the fact that they're one of many, one in a cycle, just like this is one circle on the spiral of many spirals of your life, is to put them back in a more diverse biome and community settings. The more diversity that we can be exposed, because otherwise we're like a monoculture. That's what we're creating, or actually what might be a better kind of a metaphor is like we're like a hothouse plant where you go into a greenhouse and each plant is very individualized. And sometimes I'll go in greenhouses and see like those plants are in pots and they're not necessarily where it's like those plants wouldn't even be found together. Yeah. They're just plucked from their environment like a zoo and put into a specific thing so you can view it and interact with it. And we tend to, and not that that's wrong, because I don't really prescribe to these ideas of, we need to go backwards in time or that's a wrong way to do it. But I think it's all about the awareness of hyper focusing on an individual person. There is a little bit, I don't know, I'll use the word danger, but it's, if you reflect on your environment, the natural world, everything is rooted into a shared medium. And so I like to think about what this beautiful flower and the medium that it's in and the roots and the mycelium, trying to go down to a more, go down to the ground. Like, let's get that humbling is so that we can all thrive and survive.
Yeah.
And so what better way to you can't talk about these things to kids. That's why I struggle with the mindfulness movement. There's so much talking and there's so much disconnected, non-contextual asks of children, when really go outside. And even if you just overlay that entire program onto an expression, a natural expression, a wild expression of that, kids would get it so much more. So if you're doing breath work, do it on a windy day. Like, just go out there and do it on a windy day. Like, it's just, there's so many threads we can cast back onto the landscape. And that's the way that it all used to be. To teach without Mother Nature is to teach without context. It's like you're removing complete context. And it's so difficult because it puts children up in their heads instead of putting them into their bodies.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to do tree pose without ever encountering a tree. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
We do that with all of our entire education movement is about teaching. It's almost become it's like a virtual experience. So because we're teaching about the world without the world. So it's really prepped us for this meta shift, which is that good? Is that bad? Is that the journey of our human expression? Like, I'm not going to try to guess, but I do know like what I feel and what I have to share. And so that's all that I know to share with you. Like, I think if we can root and rise into that virtual expression, still rooted, that it'll manifest in a way that's more supportive of the collective.
We got some.
Oh, this is my world. This is totally my world. The only reason my kids aren't in here right now is because my brother-in-law is out there.
I'll be able to come out in a minute. Yeah, this is winter break.
Yep, I love it. It's real, and it's why
like a long time about this, that our place in the ecosystem. And I mean, that's what I studied at, ecology and conservation biology was my undergraduate degree. But yeah, I need to go figure out how to navigate this relationship.
Yes,
a lot of conflict
day.
Resolution.
Yes.
And how do we fit into this, family together and all of the needs, like you said, not creating it for them, right?
Yep.
Like creating this structure for them and telling them how to be in this family. So it's really hard work. So I'm really excited to have you as a mentor and resource for anybody joining the program.
I appreciate you. And if anybody needs me, I'm here. You can find me at Wilder Child, or info@wilderchild.com is my email. If you need anything, I'm here for your community. So yep, it's a journey, and there's no one right way to do it. But it starts from within, and it's not easy, and you're not alone, and you'll find more people. The more you go along, you find the people that you need if you become the person that you need.
Yeah.
And, so thank you, Tanya, so much.
You hear them banging
doors.
You.
This is so my life. Like, I'm telling